Hey, welcome to video 3. So till video 2 what we have achieved is we were able to add a panel to our JFrame, and we were able to load the Pacman image, and out of the complete image set we were able to display one particular image of Pacman. So in exercise 3 our goal would be to animate that Pacman image. So basically we want to show the Pacman to be moving its mouth open and close. So if we take a look at our sprite, what essentially we want to do is we want to show these three images in a loop one by one. So first image has complete mouth open, second has lesser, and third one has the closed mouth. So if we keep on rotating these three images with some delay between them, then it will appear as Pacman is an animated character. So let's see how to do that. So code from video 2 is this, where we were drawing an image by selecting a sub image. So what here we want to do, we'll refactor our code to load all these sub images into a buffered image array. So let's define an array, buffered image. So it's going to be a two-dimensional array, and we'll call it sub images. Now based on the image that we have, we know there are 4 rows and 3 columns. So the array that we want to create will be of 4 rows and 3 columns. So we will instantiate this array in the constructor. So we call sub images equals new buffered image, and we are going to say here, one way we can say is 4 by 3, or it would be better to make them as constants and use the constants. So let's call it rows and columns, and we define these constant as final static int rows, and we know rows are 4, final static int columns, and we have 3 columns. Now after we load the image in img member, so what we will do after that, we will start putting the sub images into this array. So let's write a loop to load the sub images, and we will be doing after image is loaded. So that would be done at this point. So let's write a nested loop. So we start for int I0, I less than rows, I plus plus, and for j is 0, j less than columns, j plus plus. Now what we want to do is sub images of I and j that will be initialized with the call that we had used earlier. We'll be using the same call, img.getSubImage, and let's copy paste this. So we are going to load sub image from this buffered image object. So how we are going to pick is width and height, they are going to be the same because there is no change in that. Only we have to change this x and y indices. So let's make even these constants. So final static int, and let's call it width equals 28, and height also will make 28. The reason we are making them constants here is tomorrow if we get some other sheet and let's say the width and height of those characters are different, all we'll have to do is we'll have to make changes here, and rest of the code will work as is. So that's the benefit of making these as constants here and using these constants values. So let's use width and height here. Now we have to decide what x and y should be. So basically let's take a look at the first row. So here if we notice, after first image x is changing, then again x is changing. So x will start from 0, then x becomes 30, then x becomes 60. So that's the change we want to bring. So here it should be I into, we need to declare Okay, rather than declare anything, we can right now we can make it I into 30, that is our x, and y does not need to change when we are in the first row, because y needs to be 0 for the first complete row. Now when we go to the second row, y needs to change. Okay, since j is changing in the inner loop, so let's make this as j, because we are reading 3 images, so x has to change thrice. And since I is changing outside, let's make I here I into 30. So that's the change we'll have to bring in to make this work. So here we have just reverted, j is taking place of x and I is taking place of y, because we are reading it from left to right. So once this loop is over, we have all the images loaded into sub images. So now what essentially we want to do, rather than using this call, we can directly use sub images array, and in sub images array we are going to use indices. Let's say for now let's load the 0th image, and y we are going to change. So in first row we want to pick different images. So after displaying an image, let's change y from y plus 1 and make it modulo 3, because we don't have more than 3 images in one row of the array, since our array is 4 by 3. So 4 rows, 3 columns. So first column, first we will initialize the value of y with 0. So let's make x and y as class level members. So initial value of x and y would be, so let's say in constructor we make x equals y equals 0. So initial value of x and y is 0. So when we go and draw this, first 0 0 image will be drawn, then we'll change the value of y from y plus 1. Modulo 3 we are doing because we want y to stay in the range of 0 to 3. So then y will become 1. 1 modulo 3 is 1. So we'll go and pick the first image, then we go and pick the image at second index. After that y plus 1, it will become 3. 2 plus 1 is 3. 3 modulo 3 is again 0. So y will keep on rotating between value 0 to 2. 0, 1, 2. So, and that is what we really wanted. Now we want someone to call this function paint again and again, so that the images keep on getting drawn. So for that purpose, let's add a method to our jpanel and call it public void, and let's call it animate. So in this animate method, what we are going to do is we are going to call paint from here. So the way to call paint method is repaint, and this is the method animate that we will call from main. Now since we are calling animate, let's make the change to y also in animate, so that any changes we are doing to the state of the object, we are doing it in animate. So that's the thing we are doing. With that, we need to call animate method somehow from main. So in main we have the panel object. So what we do, we'll go ahead and put a while loop. Let's make an infinite loop for now, because we want animation to continue ongoing, and we call pnl.animate. So as soon as we call animate, first it increments value of y, then it calls repaint. That means paint will be called and next image will be drawn at the same position. Now before calling animate second time, we want to put some delay. So let's use thread.sleep, so that we have some delay, some gap between the animation. Now thread.sleep is a method again which throws a checked exception, like we have seen earlier in the case of image io.read. And we know whenever a function throws a checked exception, it becomes mandatory for us to handle that exception either by putting a try catch, or we should be specifying a throw statement in the function signature. So here we are going to use the first mechanism, and we say whenever exception is thrown, just come to catch and log this exception. in thread sleep, and we put exception details here. So now what will happen, this while loop will continue. It will continue to call animate. Animate is going to change the y value, and after that repaint will be called. So based on the updated value of y, new image will be picked from the sub images array. So after writing this, let's go ahead and try to run our code. As we can see now, the character seems animated. It's opening and closing its mouth because we are showing 3 images, one after the other. Now if we were to show the other character which is facing the right side, we know in this array the index to pick is 0, 1, 2. Second row we want to display. So let's go ahead and give it a try. So rather than this being 0, let's make it x, and let's assign the value to x as 2. So that way initial value of x is 2, and we are not changing x anytime. So since x is not changing, it will always be 2. Now if we save our code and run it again, you can see it's the Pacman facing right side. And if you want to show all 4 of them together, then what we can do is we can copy this line 4 times. One time we make it 0, then 1, then 2, then 3, and we change the locations also. So this is being drawn at x50, y50. Then let's make x-axis, we change 100, then we make 150, and then we make 200. So now it will be drawing all 4 images, and all 4 images will be animated because for all of them y is changing. So now we can see in all the directions the Pacman character looks animated. So that's all we had for this lecture. So let's summarize. In this we have used the panel class, then we have used buffered image to load the sub images of that, and we are done with it. So in next video we are going to talk about how to move our animated character.